I want to do next is actually talk a little bit about preparing your data. So this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen on a different. Actually, I guess I got to open it first, don't I?
Cliff, this is where you can choose at the top and click New Share.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah, I'm gonna click New Share, and I had to open the file up first. Can you see the data?
Not yet.
Oh, there it is. That's why it's not. Okay.
Now I see it.
Okay. And it says fake data 1A.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So let's say this is your Excel file, and that this is the way that you've been storing your data. And so there are certain things that are important to be able to upload this data. The first thing is that to a certain extent, it doesn't have to be an exact replicate of this, because there's a mapping step that you go through. What is important is that your parameters go across these columns. The order of these parameters doesn't really matter. It does not matter whether you have flow first or field pH first, or that you even have field pH. So you want to have the data that you want to upload. What is important is that the first column is your sample point. And I would actually recommend calling it sample point. Theoretically, you should be able to call this anything you want. But if you call it sample point, then it just makes Datashed's life a lot easier, and it will work. I've had problems where I called this something else and it didn't recognize it, and it actually threw data. It messed the Datashed, and we need to work on that, maybe improving that. But it really helps if you just call this sample point. The rest of these fields, it almost doesn't matter, but the more that you make it like Datashed's fields, the easier it will be for Datashed to recognize it, and easier it will be for you because you won't have to actually adjust it. Datashed will automatically identify it, and you'll understand that more in a minute. You have your sample point here on the far left. You have each individual sample, sample point. You need to have a sample date. That's very important. So it's important to have a sample date, obviously, for, I guess, obvious reasons. And then you have your parameters going across. Like I said, the order of these don't really matter. You can have them in any order that you want, because you're going to map all of this out. And so, but what is important is that you have the sample point, a date, and that the parameters go across, and then each row is an individual sample of a sample date. So this is the wetland on August 2nd, 2019. And, and then here are the data for that sample. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, the next step is you have to have this, in order for Datashed to import it, you have to have it in a CSV format, which is really easy to do. You just can come up to File and hit Save As, and then come over here, and you'll see where it has this sort of file type, and you click on this drop-down menu, And there are a couple different versions of the CSV. What I recommend is actually coming down to this one. I actually haven't, I probably should experiment with some of these other CSV versions. This is just the way I've always done it. And so I really should experiment with that. If anybody runs into any problems, let me know. But this is CSV, comma, delimited file. And so then you hit save. So you can get out of that. And you are ready for your next step. Oops, I probably logged accidentally.